I call to order the informal meeting of the General Assembly to commemorate United Nations Charter Day. I will now make a statement as the President of the General Assembly. Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, especially our younger guest of today. 81 years ago today in San Francisco, our founders signed the Charter of our United Nations. That moment was a promise that humanity did not have to endure atrocities seen before. That together we could do better, we could be better. And frankly speaking, my original script focused on this momentous occasion. Yet, since we hear these days more and more the chatter about the value and worth of the UN, questions even whether we would build the United Nations again today as in 1945, or if we need something totally new, I thought it is best to address this head-on, especially on Charter Day. Because it is difficult to imagine how we would build the house again. Back then, there were only 51 member states. Many of today's 193 member states did not even exist as free and independent countries. Many of your countries were still under colonial rule. This is one part of the answer, the technical one. The other, more candid part is, can we really imagine today 193 distinct member states agreeing as equals to common principles and purposes? Some with nuclear weapons, while others do not even have air defenses. And some people own billions, while the populations in others survive on just a few dollars a day. And now just imagine again, like back in time, all of them coming together, granting every country, despite these vast disparities, an equal seat and an equal voice in this General Assembly. When we cannot even find consensus anymore to tackle global health threats together. So my point of view, the answer is simple. No, it is hard to imagine that we would find the same resolve to do it again. The United Nations is a miracle of humanity. The greatest achievement of the United Nations is probably the simple fact that it exists at all. And therefore, our biggest responsibility is to protect this United Nation. This doesn't mean in any way that the UN is perfect. Without doubt, we have to do better to deliver on the promise of peace for the people in Sudan, Ukraine, Gaza, and Lebanon, and the many, many other conflict areas we do not even speak enough about. And without any doubt, an organization grown over 8 decades with overlapping structures, with more than 40,000 mandates and 27,000 meetings a year, needs a deep reform to be more agile and more efficient. So the greatest tribute we can pay to the founders of the United Nations today is not simply to celebrate what they built, but to ensure it is fit for the future through a successful UN 80 reform. Yet, without doubt, we should not allow cynics to weaponize these shortcomings by romanticizing or even rewriting the past decades of the UN, which unfortunately have all witnessed horrible war, nor by oversimplifying things, by arguing that the UN has taken too much, that we should go back to basics. Delivering on the SDGs and on human rights is the basics. In the preamble to the Charter, we promised since 1945, and it's worth opening it, to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights and the equal rights of men and women, to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. Those principles have been there from the very beginning on. Of course, the founders knew nothing about AI or climate change, nor did they experience COVID. Yet, they anticipated that the world would change and committed us to, I quote from the Charter, to achieve international cooperation in solving international problems of an economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character. So engagement in these fields is nothing new, nor woke, and definitely not against the Charter. It is adapting an institution built in 1945 to a world in 2026, delivering on the promise made in San Francisco, that together we could achieve more than any nation could alone. Yet, unlike in 1945, in a digitalized social media-driven world, where bad news and hate spread at lightning speed, successes of multilateralism rarely make the front page. A war which never happened because of peace building does not make it to the headlines. And nobody applauds the famine that was avoided, nor the rainforest that was never cut down. But saving succeeding generations from the scourge of war will never be possible without this conflict prevention, without preventive diplomacy, without sustainable development, and certainly not without human rights. Even if there's no glory in prevention, and even if not covered in the headlines, the UN is delivering on that promise every single day. UNICEF-led immunizations have saved more than 150 million children's lives over the last decades. More than 2 million peacekeepers from many, many countries around the world have served across more than 70 operations, also around the world, some of them even giving their lives for the protection of others. Not to mention the number of people who would never have attended a school or received medical treatment if not for the UN and its bodies. So to all of those whispering these days, is the UN still worth it? Just imagine for 1 second what the world would look like without these untold stories. My tummy hurts. I want to go home and play with my friends. These were the last words of 7-year-old Saki in the arms of his mother before he died of malnutrition in Sudan, because humanitarian aid did not reach him. How many more children like Saki would have died without the United Nations? How many already did? And how many more would we lose if we stop doing what we do, stop funding? Doing the right thing, even in the darkest hours, is what this institution was built for. To keep delivering life-saving assistance, to keep funding hope where it's needed most, and to keep speaking the names in this hall of those we fail to protect from war or to uphold their most basic rights until we do. Because this institution was not built for the easy times. Because giving up was never the promise of the Charter. The Charter is a promise to keep trying, especially when facing headwinds like today. So no, multilateralism has not failed. Multilateralism works every day when humanitarian workers are delivering food, even before sunrise in a crisis. Multilateralism works every day, even if the Security Council is blocked, when peacekeepers protect civilians. Multilateralism works every day when young people, without even knowing the emblem of the United Nations, volunteer to provide basic education in refugee camps. And multilateralism works every day in this assembly when member states, you, as permanent representatives, choose dialogue over division. And when you summon the courage to speak up for our common principles and purposes. As in a world where the principles of this institution are not only under pressure, but under attack, our responsibility is clear: to defend the Charter, not only today through commemorations, but through our actions. And by proving through what we do every day, also in this hall, that the promise made in San Francisco still lives on. Better together, one Charter, one future.